Look at me! You can't win because I'm the one that's buff! You are number 2! I'm the man! Look at it! Take your time!
Marcus Bagwell began his wrestling career as a handsome hero, a fan favorite for audiences to root for, but given the chance to become a villain,
Buff Bagwell of the NWO,
the vain and arrogant Buff Bagwell was born.
The bigger I made it, the more exaggerated I made it, the better it got.
He just turned up the volume on his own personality.
Marcus, he's really a person to sit down and talk to. Buff, the stuff, is an arrogant asshole.
Wow, I look good.
Working out, tanning, cars.
This is it.
Girls.
He's entertainingly obnoxious.
I love myself more than anybody I can think of.
After his wealthy parents lost their fortune, Marcus turned to wrestling to recapture the lavish lifestyle of his childhood and brought his whole family along for the ride.
My mom and dad worked for me.
Mama's back. What's her first name? Judy.
She was like my mom/secretary.
There's probably so many stories out there, it's just blow your mind. Blow your mind.
It was dysfunctional, yes.
Jerry Springer would just love to go to their house and hang out.
I come into the picture, WCW shuts down, and he goes off the deep end.
The combination of injuries
Oh my goodness.
and substance abuse sent Marcus's career into a nosedive. Desperate to maintain his lifestyle, he boldly ventured into a controversial new profession.
I have heard the rumor that Mark was a male whore.
When gigolos happened, that hurt me to my soul.
I was the best functioning addict in the world until I wasn't.
I thought to myself, I'm not going to be shocked when somebody calls me and tells me Mark has passed.
He achieved so much, so fast, and he fell just as fast.
So this is my mother's office, and it's full of Bagwell memories. My wrestling career, my dad's racing. Back here is Rookie of the Year, and up there is my tag team of the year. These are just memories that were spread out throughout decades, and she got them all into one room. She did all of this. This is all because of the way Judy Bagwell was, the organization, the drive. Where'd it go, man? Our family, we were told from a very young age that we were special. It was just known that we were going to be somebody. Hey, I'm Marcus Alexander Bagwell, and AKA Buff Bagwell. I'm Buff, and I'm the stuff.
It's a freak thing that he got into wrestling. Marcus was an all-county football and baseball player. He wrestled a little bit. He wasn't on the wrestling team. I'm Steve Bagwell, and I'm Marcus Bagwell's father. We had 3 sons. Marcus was the youngest. Mark developed slower than they did. He was so scared he wasn't going to get big. But I kept telling him, work at it, you'll get there, you know.
We tried to be like our father. You know, he was a very successful drag racer, self-made millionaire. He just had an aura about himself of power.
We were always watching sports. We watched wrestling.
It was definitely on our TV, but it wasn't even like an inkling of doing that for a business or a career.
How well known around town are the Bagwells?
Back in the day, they were very known. They owned Southeastern Lumber. Everyone went to get their lumber there. This is Mark Slick Johnson from WCW and TNA Wrestling. I've been friends with Marcus Bagwell for a long time. Probably known him since I was 18, 19.
I don't think there was many people you met in Marietta that did not know who the Bagwells were. My name is Tanya Bagwell, and I was Mark Bagwell's first wife. I was 18, he was 18. And we just hit it off. I would just fit like a glove. He's just a loving person.
We all wanted to go over to Mark Bagwell's house. The guy had a pool room, a theater room, a batting cage, a tennis court. His dad buys him a brand new Corvette at 15. And is able to drive it back and forth to school.
I wanted him to have the things I didn't have. And I had the money to do it, so I did.
We were spoiled rotten, but we were not spoiled brats.
He didn't get away with nothing. He still got in trouble. His dad wasn't gonna raise a pussy.
If we did anything wrong, you got your ass whipped. My father whipped me once. My mother whipped me 1,000 times, and we were scared of her.
She was fearsome for sure, and fearless. If she likes you, she likes you. If she don't, she don't. There was no in between with her.
This is a woman that ran a 250 employee lumber yard. I've seen 100 truck drivers walk in and think, this lady's the boss. And within about 2 minutes, you know, they knew who the boss was and they were shutting up.
Well, let me say this. You don't with Judy Bagwell. She'll give you the shirt off her back, but she'll knock you down with the other hand. Steve's the same way. Steve's more calm, except when he loses a poker bet. Yeah, he'd poker over there all the time. One time we're all up in Mark's room and we just hear, God damn it. He lost like the main card bet. Goes and grabs the machine gun. In the front of his house, they have 2 doors. He kicks those 2 doors open and there's geese out in the lake in front of him. He just unloads on them.
And I hear a machine gun going off. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody's robbing us. I got my 45, I bridged it, put one in it. And by the time I get to the front door with my gun, it's my father's like Scarface.
Feathers are going everywhere.
So he emptied the clip and I'm going, Dad?
That's a true story.
I just remember being in Mark's room and his dad would come up and he'd say, all right, where y'all going? We said, we're going to club and we're going here and we're going there. And he'd reach in his pocket and break out about 5 or 6 bags of cocaine. He said, here you go, boys. Y'all have fun tonight. Stay out of trouble.
He just was scared we were going to get hurt, and he knew where he was getting his from and felt better about helping us.
It was crazy. Good times, though. Good times.
As the Bagwells' business struggles, Judy reveals to her husband that the family's finances are in serious trouble.
She had gone out and got 3 or 4 loans, $250,000 a piece. She convinced the bankers that she could pay this back and it'll all be okay. Well, it all went kaboom.
I had enough money, I thought, to live the rest of my life, you know, and comfortably. I never would have dreamed it, you know, that it could happen.
My father made it very clear that we were going broke. And the brothers were at their houses at this stage. So it was just me, my mom, and my dad at the house. But it was hard times. I mean, they were fighting all the time. And it was just, things were getting ready to explode. You could just feel it.
Basically, the argument just got worse and worse. My wife, Judy, went out the door, got in one of our vehicles and fixing to leave. And I followed her out, and I said, where are you going? She said, I'm leaving. I said, not in my car, you aren't. And I said, if you try to, I'll shoot the tire.
I'm upstairs, and I hear my mom, Mark, help me, you know? And I go running downstairs, you know. We've been going through shit. Now he's beating up Mom, and I'm trying to solve that problem, and I'm just flipped as well, you know.
And Mark said, Dad, back off of Mom. And I saw a gun in his hand. I said, what are you doing with that gun? He said, I just want you to back off Mom, you know? And I said, you'd shoot me? He said, no, sir, unless I have to. And I always kept a handgun on top of the refrigerator.
He bolted right for the refrigerator. So as soon as he got there, we followed him into the kitchen. Now he's got a gun on me. He's like, come on, big man, come on. I go, put the gun down, man. I said, you're just going to end up killing one of us and going to prison, bro. This ain't going to do nothing, you know?
Of course, I was mad at that time, and I just kept on and on. First thing I knew, he was popping caps at me.
My plan was to kill my father.
The first shot probably would have killed me because it would have hit right there. But as I could see him fixing to shoot, I put my hand right there, and it took 1.5 inches of this little bone right here out. You see 2 scars there? And then he shot 4 more times. I could hear the bullet zinging by my head. It was something that I just couldn't believe was happening, you know? Because Mark and I had been so close all our lives since he was born. But he was tight with his mom too, you know?
Did you go to the hospital?
Oh yeah. They had to take a bone graft off my hip and put it in here to fill this in. And I got a silver plate there that holds it all together.
My mom's like, please call your dad, please call your dad. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not calling him. You know, I don't feel bad. I'm not wrong. I got no remorse at all.
And did you and Marcus end up talking it out?
It was a little while before we did, probably 3 or 4 months.
He called me up. Dad calls me and he goes, so I want you to know you're 100% right on what you did. You did nothing wrong. You're protecting your mom and yourself.
I told him it was all my fault, 100%. If I'd have backed off, the whole thing wouldn't have happened, you know?
We had a rough couple of years, but we've been best friends ever since.
With his parents no longer able to support him, Marcus moves out of the family home, marries his high school sweetheart Tanya, and finds a whole new way to make a living.
Mark was a male stripper right after high school.
I wasn't ashamed of it at all. I was very happy to show my body off and make money with showing my body.
We had just moved into Poplar Place Apartments, and that's how we met Missy.
I was looking for an apartment north of Atlanta, and we pull up, and there's this hot guy in these like short shorts and a little tank top. And I was like, wherever he lives, I want to live by him. I'm Missy Hyatt, the first lady of wrestling, and I discovered Buff Bagwell. I was in WCW. I was a manager for the Steiner Brothers, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, and then the Nasty Boys. But my main part was I was the first female to be an announcer.
This is Missy Hyatt's second attempt to get a locker room interview.
Marcus came up to me one day, and he's like, hey, Missy, my brother wants to be a wrestler. And I'm like, your brother? I've never seen his brother. And I'm like, why don't you become a wrestler?
And I go, those guys don't make no money. And she goes, our lowest paid guy makes $100,000 a year. And I was like, what? So she found a guy named Steve, the Brawler Lawler. And he trained me.
I was working at a club as a dancer, which I hated. But he couldn't work and still train and do all that in wrestling. So the deal was, if you work this short period of time, get me through, this wrestling school, when I get my first contract, you'll never have to work again.
She supported me to get me into the business, and the catch was, then I would take care of her from that point on.
Cried every night coming home from work. I hated it.
I was going to do anything it took, and I dove into that and dedicated my life toward it, and it paid off.
Training to become a professional wrestler, Marcus Bagwell dedicates himself to becoming a superstar.
He started working on the indie circuit.
I'm joined by the handsome stranger.
And one day he was like, Missy, you gotta see one of my matches. And I watched his match, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh my God, he is really good. This has only been like 3 months. And I'm like, he's got timing, he looks great, he's got charisma. I mean, I was really impressed.
Well, the women indeed loved him.
So I go to Mr. Jimsy Bonnet, and I said, here's a tape. And I sat there and made him watch it. And he's like, oh, Missy, you should be a scout. This boy is fab-boo.
And I want to introduce to everyone out there the newest rookie sensation in WCW.
With a successful 2-year run as a singles competitor, Marcus proves his talent to WCW and is put into a tag team with 2 Cold Scorpio.
A meat man, more of a high flyer with Pretty Boy. Didn't really know how that was gonna work, how it was gonna turn out. This is Charles Skaggs. Y'all all know me as 2 Cold Scorpio. I was very surprised how he was able to step up his game and keep up with me and stuff, you know.
They put us together, and we were tag team of the year and world champs that same year.
Well, for the tag teams, champions of the world!
And the fans loved him. You know, the women loved him.
I was madly in love with Tanya. She was a great woman, and we had a great plan. The only thing we wasn't quite ready for was for a 21-year-old man to be, you know, women throwing themselves at him. I wasn't really ready. I thought I was ready for that, but I was not. And so I cheated on Tanya.
Doing all of that I did to just help him get in the business, and then things were supposed to be better after this, and now this happens. You know, I was hurt, extremely hurt. And, you know, I just couldn't forgive him.
As his marriage to Tanya ends, Marcus is slotted into a new tag team, Stars and Stripes.
First, the Challengers from Marietta, Georgia.
Determined to reach the top at WCW, he's convinced that the key is to create the perfect body.
We were living together at the time. He said, man, I work my calves, and they just will not grow. I said, well, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm getting calf implants. I said, I'm sorry, what? And you got to put in, they look fantastic. I mean, awesome. And then his legs started hurting. Every time he wanted to poop or piss, I had to take him to the bathroom on my back because he couldn't move his legs. And I'd have to put him on my back. I had to go down and sit him on the toilet and let him do his business. And then he'd wipe his ass, and then I'd go back, pick him back up, take him into the living room back in his favorite chair. This went on for weeks because he couldn't walk. Sure enough, his body's not accepting them.
He had a fever. I knew he had a problem. I loaded him in the car and rushed him straight to the hospital. The doctor that came in to see him said, we've got less than 45 minutes to get those calves out.
I asked him, is there any way I can keep them? And he went, yeah, we can keep them if you want to cut your legs off. And I remember thinking, cut my legs off or keep them? I swear I remember thinking, how can I fix it where I can keep them?
So he has to have them taken out. So he still has them at home in the box.
Without exaggerating or sounding corny, it almost cost me my life.
Even without his dream calf implants, Marcus's popularity with the female audience lands him in a new tag team that fully utilizes his good looks and muscular physique.
It was not easy being that cheesy. I'm Scotty Riggs, WCW, ECW professional wrestler, one half of the American Males.
And we've got American Males taking it too.
It doesn't get any better than American Males. American Males, American Males.
American Males, American Males. Mark Bagwell and Scotty Riggs, the American Males.
American Males, American Males.
American Males.
I'm pissed off that you even brought up American Males, because now that song is going to be in my head till tomorrow morning. I'm Eric Bischoff, former president of World Championship Wrestling.
I'm the highest-ranking executive at WCW.
The look is very, very important, and probably even more so back in the 90s when Marcus broke in. You know, Scotty Riggs, another young, very athletic, attractive, much like Marcus. We were appealing to a female demo. We were looking to shore up what was otherwise an almost completely male-dominated audience.
Girls loved it.
I know.
The guys hated it, which made it even better for us.
Who was his second wife?
That was Erica. It didn't last very long. Then he had a third wife. That was Judy. Another Judy Bagwell. I call him Judy Bagwell the wife and Judy Bagwell the mother.
And at the beginning, it was awesome. I'm Judy Bagwell, and I'm Marcus Bagwell's third wife. I was the top. I mean, he put me on top, right? Of course, Mark always comes first.
Having won multiple tag team championships, Marcus takes the leap to join one of WCW's most legendary factions.
Here's the NWO. Ready or not, here we come.
NWO was already pretty hot. You know, we created this heel group, but the heel group was so freaking cool that people were actually cheering them.
Nash came to me and said, look, do you want to be in the NWO? And it wasn't like I had to have a meeting with Scotty Riggs over this. I mean, of course I want to be in the NWO.
What is this all about? I don't know what Bagwell and Riggs is thinking about.
I didn't want to be a dick and go, man, this sucks. I want to go to the NWO, you know, that type of thing. And so I just kind of went, all right, it's cool. Let's make it work for you, brother. And we did.
Hey! Attacked by Bagwell!
I'm in the ring with all of the superstars. I mean, it does not get any better than this. I mean, it's just, I have made it, man. This is it, man. This is it. Changed my whole career, money, life, everything.
When he became Buff to stuff, it was like, who the this think he is now?
Buff was Marcus times a million.
He the type that I want to fight. That's the type that I want to fight, want to whoop his ass. So I think that kind of gave him more heat, but he pulled it off.
I had always thought that Mark and I would eventually get back together. And when I saw that NWO, I remember saying to myself, now we're over. That is what that says to me. Now we're over, because I could see him living out that character and it engulfed him. It wasn't an every now and then thing. He was living it out.
How was your mom involved in your career at that point?
My mom came up with the idea, just open up a corporation, so we called it The Real Buff Inc. I hired the whole family, and I paid them a salary. And so out of that, it was, you know, from taking me to the airport to making sure my house was clean to paying my bills.
One time, I come home and I see Mark's mom's car's there. And I walk in his room, and he's got a big old bathroom. And he's in a big garden tub, butt naked. And his mom is behind him with the skin of his dick pulled up behind his balls, and she's shaving his balls for him. He's on all fours and goes, oh, hey, bud, what's up? Even Judy, as he's shaving his balls, she goes, hey, Mark, how you been doing? Is everything okay? And I'm like, no. And I'm go, now I've seen it all. You people are sick. And I walked right out of the room. They don't care. She's gonna help Mark out in any way she can. If she needs to shave his balls, then she's shaving his balls.
Using his newfound stardom to pursue other avenues in entertainment, Marcus takes leading roles in a number of straight-to-video action movies.
Yeah, I was familiar with at least one of Marcus's movies. Marcus needed some time off to do that movie, and I had to approve that.
Did you ever watch the movie?
No, I never did see that movie. I don't know why I missed it.
He said you had a certain flair for the absurd.
Bless his heart. He tried.
Still riding high as a member of the NWO, in April of 1998, a routine match on WCW Thunder goes dangerously wrong.
The finish of the match was, you know, Rick was going to hit me with a bulldog, go for the cover. But when he does, he misses me. And when he misses me with the bulldog, I hit him in his back and my neck goes that way. And when your neck goes that way, it can't go very far. So, wham, it hit.
Oh, my goodness.
And when it did, it bruised my spinal cord and caused me to be paralyzed.
Buff Bagwell apparently is severely hurt here.
What's going through your mind at that point?
Everything I'd worked for, it's over.
At the peak of his wrestling career, Buff Bagwell suffers an in-ring accident that leaves him with a broken neck and an uncertain future.
That's a horrible scene.
I was at a friend's house and we were watching the show, and I saw that happen, and we all were like, wait, was that part of the act? I thought, oh my God, something's not right. I mean, it was brutal.
Next 3.5 hours is CAT scans, MRIs, and all that. 3 hours later, the doctor comes in and goes, set up. I'm like, what? And so I start trying to move a little bit and setting up, and I feel totally normal. I go, what happened? He goes, when you bruise your spinal cord and the swelling happens, your body thinks it's paralyzed, so it don't move. And then when the swelling goes down, you can move again. So I got 2 plates and 8 screws in my neck through here.
So you broke your neck?
Broke my neck.
His mother, I swear, She cried until I didn't think she could cry anymore, you know.
I went to see him in the hospital. He looked terrible. I didn't think that he'd come back from that, honestly, but he did.
Oh, look at this. It's Buff Bagwell.
It was crazy, and it actually, I was back on TV from breaking my neck in 3 months.
Know that these people love me just as much as I love them. And God knows I love each and every fan out there. Listen to that.
So from that 3-month mark to the 10-month mark, I got back into great shape and was Scott Steiner's manager.
Returning to the spotlight, Buff turns to drugs to endure the pain that comes with the wrestling lifestyle.
You take, 2 Vicodins, 2 Somas, and then you come down and drink some beer, and then you take 2 more kinds of pills that get you up to go wrestle, and then you'll take another little combo to come back down.
Muscle relaxers is what it is. It relaxes your muscles. You take too many and you cannot control. Walking, talking, nothing.
I didn't like to be around Mark because he kind of was not the Mark I grew up with, I was out partying with all the other wrestlers. He was in the room with his pills having a good time. I remember being on a plane with me and Mark flying to Europe or whatever, and him laying beside me and sleeping, but then he'd start doing his twitches and all that. And I remember one time this stewardess said, "Is he okay? Is he okay?" I said, "Yes, it's just his medicine. It's just his medicine."
And I almost tried to make it sound like, he was really injured, and you try to make up excuses. That's all I ever did. I tried to make up excuses for him to cover. It was just, I didn't like seeing him like that because that's not Mark, right? Yeah. It was tough.
Buff.
With the success of Buff's return to WCW,
We understand that is his mother pushing Buff Bagwell in.
a new angle is born as Marcus's mother, Judy, becomes a part of the storyline.
Judy Bagwell. We made her a star. A lot of the stuff that we did with Judy and Mark, I thought it was pretty good creative, actually. She loved to perform, too. I can see where Marcus got it.
Rick Steiner and my mom loved each other. They were great friends. And he called me up one day and he goes, "Look, man, I got this idea. You being a bad guy, we're going to bring your mom in and do the, what are you doing, son? Why are you being a bad guy to all these fans? Your typical mother." And I said, "I love it. Let's do it."
You come to me and you said, "Mother, don't you ever slap me again." And I believe what you said. Yep.
I enjoyed working with my mom tremendously, but your mom is your mom still. So working with your family is kind of hard sometimes.
She's trying it. She's doing everything she can to get away from Positively Canyon.
No, I don't regret Judy getting involved. Unfortunately, we leaned on it a little bit too much, and it went a little farther and a little longer than it should. But I think initially the things that we did with Judy were really good.
I couldn't find a pole that would hold that big, fat battle axe.
After Judy's run comes to an end, WCW is bought by their competition, the World Wrestling Federation. As Vince McMahon only brings some WCW wrestlers onto his roster,
Buff Bagwell up.
Buff Bagwell makes the cut. Before making his debut, Marcus attends a training session with fellow wrestler Shane Helms, which erupts into a heated confrontation.
Shane said something to me like, "Yeah, Bagwell happened to be on time today," or something. And I go, "Wow." I go, "You had a great day today, brother." He goes, "Well, I'm hurt." I go, "Oh, I know, yeah." I said, "You're always hurt or something." And he goes, "Well, at least I'm not a drug addict." And I said, "Look, bro, we got 2 ways to go here. We can just drop this and let it go." I said, "Or I can just slap your teeth down your throat."
Following an exchange of insults, Marcus Bagwell threatens fellow wrestler Shane Helms with physical violence.
He goes, "Take your best shot." And he didn't get shot out of his mouth, and here come the Bagwell slap. Whap!
What's the Bagwell slap?
The Bagwell slap is something my father taught us. It's just a way to show instant dominance. You're able to, slap somebody and just get a hold of the situation and let everybody know what's going on and who's in control. And it rolled him into the corner. So I go to walk off. Well, I didn't know it, but he had an ice bottle under his shirt, a brick, a frozen brick, and goes, wow. On the back of my head, me walking away from behind. I mean, it was like a sledgehammer. And all of a sudden I look and there's just blood all around me. I don't tell nobody about it. I go to my own doctor. I get my own doctor to fix it. No time off. I wrestled the night with Booker with 25 staples in my head that night. I had to get a black Sharpie and cover the staples in that match. And that night, I was main event with Booker T and had a decent match, I thought.
We need to go ahead. Every one of us.
We're instantly starting to get hit with how bad our match was. And I go, what happened? What do you mean bad match? It wasn't a barn burner, but there was no mistakes. But they really just kept hammering how bad the match was. So they called me that week and they're like, hey man, we got big plans for you on Monday. Rest up, you're good to go. And I was fired the next week. I went from main event 1 week and was fired in 7 days.
Well, the match wasn't great.
The fact is, the crowd can't help it.
What if I had a horrible match? So what? I'm Buff Bagwell, man. I gave 11 years to WCW 5-time World Tag Team Champion Rookie of the Year. I'm 31 with 20 years coming at me of wonderful wrestling. Why would you get fired over a bad match? I think it was they were just trying to get rid of me.
But see, Mark slapped him first. So if Shane would have hit him, Shane would have probably been gone. The famous Bagwell slap cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I was going to be one of the biggest names in pro wrestling, man, ever. And instead, I had a good run, that's all. And that's hard to deal with, man, when you're 31 years old. So I dealt with it with pills and alcohol. So what was already getting really bad, it got real bad. I had nobody to answer to no more. And I was depressed now.
Fired from the WWF in 2001, Marcus spends the next 11 years wrestling in independent promotions. Battling his addictions, Marcus makes multiple attempts to get clean. But in 2012, while driving home from rehab, he passes out at the wheel.
Next thing I know, I wake up and I'm driving my car. I crank my Jeep and roll it 4 times. So I almost killed myself with that, knocked my teeth out. But they call that a withdrawal seizure. From being clean, I had a seizure.
They had to put him in a medically induced coma because his neck was swelling. And they said had he not had that plate that he had from his original broken neck, he would have been dead. When I saw him in the hospital, I couldn't believe how he looked. His entire face was swollen. And of course, when his brothers went there to see him, they were devastated because, you would not have recognized him. His face was so bad. He should not be alive. I'm telling you, he should not be alive right now.
How did he bounce back from that?
He crawled back up pretty quickly.
My teeth are knocked out of my head. I have lost 50 pounds, and there's bills that still are coming in, and I don't know what to do.
My dad to calm him down.
And so we made it make sense
did the opposite.
that I was going to be on this show called
drive 8 hours
Gigolos,
to the next
and
show.
I was getting paid $25,000.
I don't know exactly when.
Being a gigolo isn't always
the evolution happened from smoking marijuana.
Do you remember hearing about Marcus appearing on a show called Gigolos?
I do. I was like, what the Get the out of here. How the he gonna get on the Gigolos and he got a dick about this big?
Hey guys, what's up, man? I don't even have to say his name.
They told him he was going to make an appearance and sort of be a mentor to the guys.
So we didn't know what I was doing quite yet. But I get all the way out there, and all of a sudden I see what I got to do, and I'm like, wait a second, what? Are you shitting me?
Desperate for money, Marcus Bagwell agrees to appear on the reality TV show Gigolos.
Come on in.
But once on set, it becomes clear that the show expects more from Marcus than he anticipated.
Hi, Brad. He calls me the next day and he said, I kind of got some bad news. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, it wasn't what they told me it was going to be. I did more than an appearance. And I said, what are you talking about?
I couldn't choose just one.
Or two or three.
Exactly. He said, well, it's almost like soft porn. And I was about to die when he told me that. And when he told me what he had to do, it broke my heart. It really did, because I was like, this is bad.
In my scene, I do remember I had 0 blood in my penis, 0 blood. I'm like, what do I do? So I just got real close up to her and acted like we were having sex. Well, when the whole thing got done shooting, I'm down at the bar in Vegas with the guy that's paying us, and I said, bro, I go, I'm so sorry, I couldn't have sex with the lady. He goes, you're not supposed to. And I go, what? I go, well, nobody told me, bro. It's sad what a human will do when you're in such a situation of losing your house, not having food to go in your mouth. And we were broke, man.
But this was a show. I didn't know it was going to be real later.
At some point, you actually end up on the website Cowboys for Angels?
Cowboys for Angels. It was a website that you could hire a gigolo for a date, for a weekend, for a week. And it was like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to do this. We're trying to pay the bills and at the same time keep a marriage. And it sounds ludicrous saying it now, but when you're in it, it just all happens so fast.
Oh, I hate talking about this because it's just weird, but whenever he did get called to go on a date, it turned out that this woman actually fell in love with Mark.
Very first one out of the gate, fell in love, and it was crazy. And I would live there for a week, paying our bills, and I'd come home for a week.
He ended up seeing her without my knowledge.
Judy had a job. She's got a great job she really likes. And at this time, she was always gone. And I was gone on the weekends, so we never saw each other. So the transition from Judy to this person that had money, it seemed more logical.
And he called me at work one day, this is a really bad time, and said, I think I have fallen in love and I'm going to leave. Yeah.
Wait, is she still in his life?
No.
Absolutely, I would have stayed with Judy if I had to do it over, but I don't. And things happened and it went on.
Dealing with relationship and financial problems, Marcus's drug use spirals out of control, resulting in multiple DUIs and eventually another car wreck.
This last one was devastating. This last one was, August of 2020. I went through the back of a building behind Cumberland Mall. And just, I wasn't there. I just completely blacked out. Went through a bus station bathroom. And how I got out of not killing somebody on this one, man, is just, I got no idea. But I'm very lucky that I'm not dead. And really, honestly, God, I mean this, more than somebody else ain't dead.
After these wrecks, you're just like, when's it going to stop? It's just never ending.
Already at rock bottom with his addiction, Marcus receives life-shattering news about his mother, Judy.
She was suffering for a while, man. She had got dementia and but horribly bad. I saw the most powerful woman in the world really going down in flames, bro. Like bad.
Marcus Bagwell and his family now face their biggest challenge yet, as his mother Judy is diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
She was in a rehabilitation place. She had kind of slipped into a situation where she couldn't wake up. And I had hurt myself and I was in the hospital. He called me to see if I could get her woke up. And for over an hour, I kept digging, trying to get her woke up and begging her to open her eyes and talk to us. Didn't work out at all. And at some point, I got a call and said, I hate to tell you, Mr. Bagwell, but your wife died. One of the greatest women I ever knew or anybody else ever knew.
Everybody says their mom's the best, but my mom was the best.
It was a lot of dysfunction, but they loved their kids. They really did.
When Judy passed away, did that kind of send Marcus in a spiral, or did that maybe wake him up?
I think it woke him up more than anything.
His niece came into the picture because Mark needed a place to live. And so she said, you can stay here, but you're going to have to get clean.
They just said, look, if you don't get sober today and you don't go today, we're out of your life. And I said, let's do it.
And then we brought Dallas Page in, and that's how it all started.
If you're going to run down this road, which you already are.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to live it.
I do believe it. I've talked to him several times. It's just like the old Mark. I can barely see hardly any, buff in there. It was a lot of Mark now, so I do believe him. I do.
Can you tell us what happened with Scotty Riggs?
Yeah, I can. Dark Side of the Ring called me and they said, hey man, we're gonna do your story. And they told me some people they were gonna reach out to. And one of them was Scotty Riggs. And I said, cool, great. I thought, I owe him a call anyway. I'm gonna call and just touch base with him. And he texted me back and said, I'm living in my car the last 6 or 8 weeks.
My mom got ill and passed away in 2020. And went through a couple years there, paying the bills, everything else, trying to keep the house, whole 9 yards. Ended up losing the house that I was living in and was sleeping in my car. And I was in a really depressed place, dark state, and was pretty much maybe a half a day away of putting a gun to my chest and taking my life. And Marcus called me up and just basically browbeat me to come to Atlanta. And he's like, dude, I'm at Dallas's house. Get up here. I said, man, I'm content with not being there anymore. And he did not give up. I love you, man. Get up here. Get up here. And that next morning, I drove up here. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Do you still love Marcus?
I do. I'll always love Mark. I think he's just really genuinely this good guy. And for so long, people have, misjudged him.
I think that he has some good people supporting him, and he has a wonderful girl in his life now. I hope that works out for him. I want him to be happy. I truly want him to be happy.
Marcus Bagwell's a lovable guy. It's why his ex-wife still love him. It's why friends still love him. It's why I still love him, despite his faults and his flaws. But at Mark's core, he's a very giving, generous, loving person.
What do you think drives Marcus now?
I think the same drive that made him a superstar in a year, the fortitude, the gumption, the want, the smartness.
He's done a lot of things in his life that I was very, very proud of, but I think getting sober and staying sober is above all of them.
The future for me is sobriety and my recovery. And no doubt about it, I want to be back in the business. I want to be back in the ring.
Look, if anybody can pull it off, Marcus Bagwell can.
I'm rooting for you, baby. I'm rooting for you.
Professional wrestling, the match that turned casual viewers into lifelong devotees. But when newcomers ask if every match is like that, the seasoned observer must smile and say no. A standard McFoley match was already a brutal spectacle involving blood, thumbtacks, fire, barbed wire, and even getting caught in explosions during his tour in Japan. He put his body through an unimaginable amount of punishment just to elicit a gasp or a grossed out reaction from the audience. His daughter, Noelle Foley, grew up watching her father push those boundaries. Noting that realism was his primary tool, Mick himself admitted that he did not feel he was having a good match unless he struggled just to walk back to his hotel room afterward. He did not necessarily enjoy the pain itself. Rather, he enjoyed the fact that he could absorb it and translate it into a compelling performance that fans could feel. His wife, Colette Foley, has known Mick for over 35 years. When they first met, she looked past the corny jokes and terrible humor to see a gentle, kind soul whose eyes told a story of sincerity. Their wedding song was Beauty and the Beast. She understood his deep commitment to his craft, even when that adrenaline drove him to take extreme risks at his own expense just so the fans would leave talking about an unforgettable show. Long before the bright lights of the global stage, he developed a wild, unhinged persona known as Cactus Jack. Jim Cornette, working at the time as an agent and producer for the World Wrestling Federation, recognized that Mick possessed an exceptional grasp of match psychology. He knew the fans gravitated toward rebels who were completely out of control, individuals who actively fought against the script and took the audience on a wild, unpredictable ride. Mick's early life reflected that hunger for authenticity. His living space often consisted of a simple mattress on the floor accompanied by a television and a VCR that barely functioned, playing tapes of Japanese wrestling for up to 12 hours a day. He gravitated toward the realism, the storytelling, and the environment where man had to conquer harsh surroundings. He traveled to Japan, seeking out feuds with legendary brawlers like Terry Funk, a mentor who taught him how to make audiences suspend their disbelief instantly through explosive, bloody and fiery death matches. Back in North America, the World Wrestling Federation of that era was known as a family-friendly, G-rated television product. For a performer with Mick's unorthodox style, he did not initially fit the corporate mold of what the company was selling. Al Snow, a former superstar and Mick's longtime travel partner and close friend, noted that Vince McMahon initially did not want Mick Foley on the roster. McMahon did not think he was marketable or conventionally attractive. However, Jim Ross, serving at the time as the vice president of talent relations, needed reliable opponents to challenge the company's top-tier stars. The Undertaker was rapidly ascending as one of the biggest and most dominant figures in wrestling history. Vince McMahon kept trying to pair him with traditional giants, a formula that often resulted in predictable matches. What The Undertaker truly needed was a dangerous, unpredictable lunatic. Jim Ross and other executives eventually convinced McMahon to take a chance, though McMahon reportedly slammed his hand on a table and insisted on covering up the wrestler's face, treating him initially as a blank slate. Gerald Briscoe, a Hall of Fame producer and executive, recalled the challenge handed to creative team, build an entire persona around a blank canvas. And thus, Mankind was born. What is Mankind? He was a tortured soul pulling his own hair out, a bizarre creation that arguably would have failed with anyone else on Earth. But Mick Foley invested his entire soul into the character, creating an immediate, visceral connection with the audience. His primary goal was to serve as a formidable, relentless opponent for The Undertaker, proving willing to try absolutely anything to succeed. As The Undertaker and Mankind built a foundational rivalry across multiple pay-per-views and television broadcasts, Mick felt his character hitting a plateau. He knew he had to do something extraordinary to elevate their legacy. When planning the King of the Ring event in 1998, WWF producers decided to revisit the Hell in a Cell concept. Originally designed as a containment structure featuring a solid steel roof, the match stipulation dictated that both men entered, but only one would walk out. While the inaugural Cell match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had set a remarkably high technical standard, Mick Foley began brainstorming ways to surpass it. During a casual conversation with Terry Funk, the idea of starting the match on top of the steel roof was tossed around as a joke. But when Terry floated the concept of what it would look like if someone were actually thrown off the roof, Mick looked at him and realized he could turn that joke into reality. Mick pitched the terrifying concept to The Undertaker and Vince McMahon. While McMahon was initially hesitant, the persistence of performers eventually won approval. Mick was not viewing the spot as a mere second act in his career. He was simply fighting to keep his head above water in an industry where he felt his time might soon be running out. On June 28, 1998, at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, 16,000 fans packed the venue in eager anticipation. Jimmy Corderas, serving as a referee and ring crew member, watched the monitors backstage from the production truck alongside Gerald Briscoe, feeling the mounting tension in the air. As Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler welcomed television viewers, the unexpected happened. Instead of waiting inside the enclosure, Mick Foley began scaling the exterior wire mesh of the cell right at the start of the match. Fans and commentators alike watched in absolute disbelief. Mick later admitted that despite assuring management he was comfortable with heights, he was actually terrified of them and struggled intensely as he climbed into the darkness of the arena ceiling. As The Undertaker made his entrance, the two competitors stood atop the 600-pound steel mesh roof, secured only by temporary zip ties. With a single step, the mesh gave way by roughly a foot, sending a shock wave through the structure as the zip ties snapped under pressure. Knowing the risks of trading blows near the edge, the performers maneuvered toward the perimeter where the Spanish announce tables sat far below. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler looked up in sheer horror as a 300-pound human being was suddenly hurled from a height of nearly 20 feet through the air. To those watching, it felt like an eternity played out in slow motion, followed by a deafening, terrifying crash as Mick smashed through the wooden table. The sound echoed like a severe vehicular accident. Backstage personnel exploded with immediate concern, fearing the worst. Many genuinely believed they had just witnessed a tragedy. Miraculously, fueled by pure adrenaline and incredible spatial awareness, Mick had managed to shift his body in midair to land as flatly as possible on the desk, absorbing some of the catastrophic kinetic energy. Referee Terry Funk and medical staff rushed to the scene. Dr. Francois Petit, the traveling physician for the organization, sprinted down to ringside to evaluate the fallen competitor. Mick lay on his back, having suffered a severely dislocated shoulder among other hidden injuries. Emergency personnel attempted to bring a stretcher down, but due to space limitations, the entire steel cage had to be raised with the Undertaker still standing atop it. Placed onto the gurney, it appeared to everyone in the arena that the match was definitively over. But Mick Foley was not finished. As officials prepared to wheel him away, a fierce determination took over. He realized the audience was fully invested, and deep down he felt he could continue. Despite frantic pleas from colleagues telling him to stay down, Mick climbed back up the steps and re-entered the structure, much to the utter disbelief of everyone backstage and in the audience. What followed next pushed human endurance past the breaking point. The planned sequence involved a choke slam that was supposed to gradually give way, but fate intervened in a far more dangerous fashion. The steel mesh panel completely broke open beneath Mick's weight, sending him crashing directly from the top of the cell all the way down to the hard wooden canvas of the ring below. As he fell, a heavy steel folding chair dropped right behind him, striking him directly in the face upon impact. The collision knocked him out cold for 42 seconds, the first time in his professional career that he had been legitimately rendered completely unconscious by a blow. Terry Funk immediately stepped in, walking up to the Undertaker and shouting at him to hit him, deliberately diverting the attention of the referees and medical staff so they could tend to Mick's unresponsive body. When Mick finally regained consciousness, his vision was clouded, his jaw was dislocated, and a tooth had been knocked completely out of his mouth, somehow traveling up through his nasal passage and lodging in his nose. Despite suffering a severe concussion, a bruised kidney, and a torn lip requiring 15 stitches, Mick continued the match. In a final display of characteristic resilience, he was rolled deliberately across a bed of metal thumbtacks spread across the canvas, maximizing the visual impact before the Undertaker finally secured a victory after 17 grueling minutes. The crowd erupted in awe as Mick waved away the stretcher, walking backstage under his own power. Backstage, Vince McMahon met him at the curtain, expressing gratitude while firmly demanding a promise that he would never attempt anything of that magnitude again. While the match catapulted Mick into a massive career renaissance, leading to his capture of the World Wrestling Federation Championship just months later, the long-term toll on his physical and mental health was profound. Concussions stacked upon concussions. Just months later, he engaged in another brutal encounter against The Rock during an infamous I Quit match, absorbing 11 unprotected chair shots to the head, a sequence that horrified viewers and left his family deeply traumatized. Independent medical evaluations later delivered a stark warning. Continued participation in professional wrestling would lead to permanent disability. Years later, science has shed light on the devastating realities of repetitive brain trauma, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and the lasting physical price paid by athletes who sacrifice their bodies for public entertainment. Today, Mick Foley navigates the fallout through spoken word performances, engaging his mind like an athlete at mental gymnastics, while continuing to cherish the connection he shares with his fiercely loyal fan base. Reflecting on his journey, he acknowledges the bumps, the bruises, and the moments of profound darkness, yet ultimately views his career as a magical, surreal canvas of performance art. The legacy of Hell in a Cell outlives them both, standing forever as a monument to a man who gave his heart, soul, and physical well-being to an industry he loved beyond measure. On June 28, 1998, at WWF's King of the Ring pay-per-view, one match would earn its place as one of the most shocking in wrestling history. Undertaker versus Mankind in Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell hits you like a mallet to the consciousness. I knew it was going to be crazy, but I didn't know it was going to be that crazy. She had two talents out there that liked to really push that envelope until it fell over the edge. Oh, wrestling's fake, but you can't fake gravity. I've been frightened by a lot of things in pro wrestling. Nothing frightened me as much as that did, until later on in the match anyway. What left fans stunned was the unrelenting punishment Mick Foley endured. Until you saw it, you didn't believe that a person could physically do this and live. This match was real. The pain was real. The drama was real. I was cursing and screaming and calling him an FING idiot. Why are you doing this? One of wrestling's most infamous matches. Hell in a Cell's legacy persists as both an epic success and a cautionary tale. I think we dodged bullets that day. Not just one, but several. It's really crazy to think that they would allow someone to go unconscious and then just continue. The match, the collateral damage that ensued, is another story. When does it stop? When's enough? You pay all day long for the decisions you make in your 15 minutes in the spotlight. It was a dangerously crazy masterpiece, but all of us need to ask ourselves the question, was it worth it? Everyone who gets into wrestling is looking for something that they find missing in their own lives. For me, I was teased a lot, so I had an overwhelming need to be liked, and to take that WWF Championship belt. For example, I remember being in college as a sophomore. I took a swig of red food coloring, and I did a superfly leap off a bed onto a stuffed atom on a concrete floor. And when I hit the floor, I spit that blood concoction out. Everybody in the dorm was there watching. I heard one of the girls yell out, "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen." And I felt that power. So I thought, if I can't make people love me, perhaps I can disgust them. I just needed to get reactions. My name is Mick Foley. I am known as a hardcore legend, and I survived Hell in a Cell. I think Hell in a Cell is a perfect gateway. So many people have said that's the first match I was shown, and now I'm a huge fan. And my follow-up question is always like, did you expect all the matches to be like that? It's like, because they're not. A normal Mick Foley match is quite hardcore, brutal, probably blood, thumbtacks, fire. Oh my God, he's ready to take his dick. Barbed wire. Getting exploded by C4 explosives in Japan. Getting speared through a table of fire. Taking like bumps on the concrete. Oh God, right on the concrete. I mean, he just put his body through so much. I'm Mickey Foley, and my dad is a hardcore legend, Mick Foley. I think he just really loves getting like in oh my God or gross or nasty type of pop. Oh my God. I'm Noelle Foley, and I'm the daughter of Mick Foley. Realism was a big tool. I didn't think I was having a good match unless I had trouble getting back to my hotel room. I did not enjoy the pain. I enjoyed the fact that I could take it and sell it in a way that was fun. Oh no. Oh my God. He's hung himself in the rope. I just had to really ask myself, do I want to get mixed up with this? I'm Colette Foley, and I've known Mick Foley for over 35 years. When I met Mick, I noticed his eyes. I noticed that he was a gentle, nice person. But his corny jokes and terrible humor, that's what really made me fall in love with him. Our wedding song was actually Beauty and the Beast. We were a good team. She understood. She understood my commitment. Like, she really did. When that adrenaline was pumping, he just wanted people to leave talking about how great a show it was, at his own risk. And that was his drive to keep going and get more crazy along the way. He developed a personality called Cactus Jack. You can't stop Cactus Jack. He was a wild and crazy guy. You thought he might be insane. Are you kidding me? He had charisma. You couldn't take your eyes off this guy. He was different. He was unusual. I'm Jim Cornette, and at the time of the Hell in a Cell match, I was working as an agent and a producer for the WWF. Mick was excellent with psychology in his matches. He knew that the fans liked people that were out of control. He's biting them. Someone who was going against the script. Cactus is going down. He could take those people on that ride with him and elicit the response that he wanted to get. This man's out of line for this. Then the attention would be on him, and his reputation would grow. Our bedroom furniture consisted of a mattress on the floor with a black and white television, with a VCR that barely worked, and in that VCR was Japanese wrestling tapes. I would sometimes watch 12 hours of Japanese wrestling a day. I liked the realism, the storytelling. It's not just man versus man. You have to defeat the surroundings, you know? I thought Japan was likely to be where I made my living. They were looking for a foreigner who could feud with Terry Funk. Terry Funk was the greatest of all time for his ability to make people suspend disbelief in A. Second, Terry Funk became somewhat of a mentor to Mick, and they started working together in these explosive, bloody, violent, fiery death matches in Japan. I was always drawn to the wild stuff, so I would literally be on my hands and knees. And I thought that was proof that I had done something special. This is a place I can make myself stand out. So I never saw myself being a WWE guy. In WWF at the time, it wasn't a PG era. It was a G-rated era. Very bland. And for someone like Mick, his style didn't really gel with what WWF was selling. My name is Al Snow. I'm a former WWE superstar. I was Mick Foley's travel partner. And, dare I say, probably his best friend. Probably his only friend. I'm just kidding. Vince McMahon did not want Mick Foley. Didn't think that he was marketable. Didn't think he was attractive. How I convinced McMahon to hire Mick was to give me a chance on my observations of talent. Because I see something in this guy. I'm Jim Ross, and at the time of the Hell in a Cell, I was Vice President of Talent Relations. I needed to make sure that we had dancing partners for the top guys. Undertaker was one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling. Long live The Undertaker. Vince kept trying to go with giants to face The Undertaker, which was boring and dull. Big right hand. What you needed was a lunatic. I'd heard a story about Vince slamming his hand down on a table and said, all right, I'll bring him in, but I'm covering up his face. We don't know who he is. We don't know nothing about him. Well, he's nobody. He's nothing. That's Vince's perception of Mick Foley. Hey, everybody, I'm Gerald Briscoe, better known as Jerry Briscoe, WWE Hall of Famer, and Chickasaw Nation Hall of Famer. Vince was like, man, it was like, okay, now you guys go build a character around nothing. So we come down to Mankind. What the hell is Mankind? Here it comes, Mankind. This bogus bullshit wouldn't have worked with anybody but Mick Foley. He's pulling his own hair out, without a connection to the audience, without character. Everything else is meaningless. I think fans can sense the commitment. My goal for Mick was that he was going to be a great opponent for The Undertaker. He was willing to try anything. My granny would say, he didn't turn nothing down but the covers. So now I've got this big challenge to not let him kill himself. The Undertaker and I were laying quite a foundation. 7 pay-per-view matches, 10 TV matches. We've been around the globe together. But my character had kind of plateaued. I knew I had to do something. Something that would add to instead of detract from our legacy. For 1998's King of the Ring pay-per-view, WWF producers planned to reignite the Mankind-Undertaker feud with a recently developed concept, Hell in a Cell. The way that they did cage matches in the WWF was you had to either get out by either climbing over the cage or leaving through the door. I asked Vince McMahon, I said, what about if this cage match is different? What about if we put a roof on the cage? Both go in, only one's coming out. And that's where we came up with Hell in a Cell. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had the first Hell in a Cell, and it was a mile marker. Well, the Michaels-Undertaker match, technically, to me, it's still the best one. I just looked at this match open-jawed. I literally can't do any of the things that these guys are doing. Some 9 months later, they're going to do it again, this time The Undertaker and Mankind. And then I asked Terry Funk, what are we going to do? And he started laughing. He went, you know what would be funny is, what if you actually started the match on top of the cell? And what if you're thrown off? He's saying it as a joke. He stopped laughing. I looked at him and I said, I think I can do that. I could not get the idea out of my head. I pitched The Undertaker and Mr. McMahon, the idea being thrown off, into a casual conversation. It was a great cell job. I wasn't on board, really, for throwing Mick off the cell. And, he was dead set. And then, we got Betts on board with him. I was like, okay. I was not looking at this match as like a second act of my career. I was just looking at it as a way to try to keep my head above water. I thought, when this run is done, I am too. Did you know going into this, what Mick had planned? Yes, he told me the high spots, that he was going to be all right. If he can see it, he can do it. And I trust that. We have only seen one Hell in a cell matchup in WWF history. And it was the most unbelievable match that I think I've ever witnessed. Jar, I remember specifically thinking to myself, I need to come out with everything I've got. Just eyes on the prize. This match has so much riding on it, JR, that the loser may not even stop at the hospital. They may go straight to the morgue. There's that old saying, be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest is the Hell in the Cell match. On June 28, 1998, at Pittsburgh Civic Arena, a packed house eagerly awaits the Hell in a cell showdown between Undertaker and Mankind. Yeah, you gotta imagine the pressure that Mick's probably feeling as he's walking to the ring. Knowing that the last time an audience saw this match, it was Shawn and Taker. Knowing that he's got to outdo that. Poor Mick. He's not exactly the most nimble guy in the world either. My name is Jimmy Corderas. At the time of Hell in a Cell, I was part of the ring crew and also a referee. I was backstage watching on the monitors, and Gerald Briscoe was the one who produces there. I had the best seat in the house, sat right in front of about 10 monitors watching everything. So you were like basically sitting in the captain's seat during Hell in a Cell? I was the pilot, baby. This is probably the first time in 20 years that I've watched this match. No one knew what to anticipate. And I don't think anyone could have ever imagined what they were going to see. Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Ross alongside Jerry the King Lawler. I was as much in the dark as a fan watching at home. I did want to start the match in a way nobody had ever started a match before, and to do something no one had ever done. I think there's a little bit of shock on everybody's face, like, he's going up now? He's going up at the beginning of the match? He's supposed to start out inside the cage, isn't he? What next? He's not very logical. I mean, he needs therapy. I had not been on top of the cell. I assured Mr. McMahon of The Undertaker, "Yeah, I've been up there. It's fine." But the truth is, when I got up there, I was terrified. I'm actually not good with heights. Whoa, it's totally dark in here. He may fall off that cell. The entire time The Undertaker's music is playing, I'm thinking to myself, how can I gracefully climb down this cell without ruining my career? Wait a minute. Do you think he's daring The Undertaker to start this match up there? I thought it was a hell of a way to start. The Hell in a Cell match is officially underway. It created a fear of the mind that one could not get past. Something's going to happen. What's going to happen? They had attached the top section of the cage with zip ties. But there's 600 pounds of human beings up there. The Undertaker and I both take a step, and that mesh goes down by about a foot. Oh my gosh, look at this. It broke through, and I literally hear zip ties springing. They're destroying the Hell in a Cell. When those zip ties were popping off, I thought, oh boy, this is not good. I attempt to suplex the Undertaker on top of that mesh. He cut that off knowing that, there was a decent chance we were both going to go through it. They're throwing punches, and they got toward the edge of the cage where the announce tables were. I thought when they got close to the edge, there's just no way in hell that Mitch is going to take a tumble off the top of the cage. That's too dangerous. That's too iffy. There's very little margin for error. I look at this incredibly small table like a little dollhouse. I don't know how in the world it's going to work out, and I don't like it a damn bit. And lo and behold, the closer they got to the edge of the cage, the more I became convinced that something big was going to happen here momentarily. And it did. Then all of a sudden, here's Jim Ross, and here's Jerry Lawler, as well as the Spanish announcers, and they're looking up, and a 300-pound human being is flung at them from almost 20 feet above them, and he's coming at them fast. As strange as it sounds, it felt like it was going by in slow motion. It also went by in the blink of an eye. All of a sudden you hear this. God, this crash. Holy shit, did we just see what we thought we saw? The sound of Nick going through the announcer table was scary as hell. Everyone that was in the back, we just exploded in concern. It was like witnessing a car accident. Who you will thought he was dead. This man just stopped dead in his tracks. In a business filled with crazy, strange things, nobody had ever tried to do something like this before. It blew everybody's mind, and I thought, my God, this is over. There's no way he's going to get back up. There was an audible gasp where everyone went no. We had 2 young children at the time, and they didn't know what to think of it. All I kept saying was, oh, it's fake, just to soothe them. Yet in the back of my mind, I'm freaking out. It's tough to know when it really, really, really is real. But it had to have hurt him, and it was believable. If the Undertaker threw him just a little too far, or a little too short, that's falling from God, knows how high onto concrete, or could have even landed on fans. The pain would come later. I'm kind of flying high on adrenaline, and I pulled off this pretty lofty goal. Going through the table could not have gone better. He saw in his head, and in mid-air, he turned in such a way that he was able to land flat on that. Announced death to cushion that fall, and not kill him. And when it did happen, you should have heard the voices back there. Replay that, and you go into business mode where you're trying to get every great shot that you had. With it, Hugo Savanovic, the Spanish commentator, bailed out his chair instead of getting flattened. It was pretty traumatic, to be honest, because it was my friend out there and being torn with the rule that you don't step in, you don't interfere with whatever Nick was trying to construct. The fans were literally having this guy laying at their feet, and they're looking at all the attendants and the referees. I know Terry Funk was the first one to get there. I asked Terry, is he conscious right there? Now we're trying to make room for Dr. Francois to get there. So I was in my medical room, and suddenly I hear right now, come right now, Nick fell from the top of the cell. And I said, what? I am Dr. Francois Petit. I used to be the doctor for WWF for about 4.5, 5 years on the road, and before that for about 8, 9 years in Los Angeles. Francois was kind of like the French Army knife. Francois was a black belt in karate. He was a Sub-Zero in the first Mortal Kombat movie, probably a secret agent, and you know an investment banker. Francois was what I think they call them bone crackers. He could fix you. You probably wouldn't enjoy it, but he could put you back in place. No matter what the malady was, baby, I fix you. I fix you, baby, it'll be okay. You're going to have to put it back. Of course. He was my number one patient. I can't say something like that. Well, this is nuts what he did. He fell on his back badly, and on top of that, on his dislocated shoulder. The EMT people have no idea how to get the gurney down there, and it turns out the gurney wouldn't fit. So now they've got to raise a cell with the Undertaker on it. He was put on that gurney like that was real. They were going to take him to the hospital. We thought the damn thing was over with. I mean, what else can they do know? But we found out. I realized that the longer I'm on there, the more fully the audience is engaged. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Well, I'm not, but I've got a feeling that I'm going to be able to continue. Everybody was trying to tell him, no, Mick, you're done. Stop. What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? Just stay down. Holy shit, he's coming back for more? I'm thinking this guy will be the craziest, dumbest SOB in our business. How can he climb? How can his body at this point? I do not know how I'm going to do this and live. But I have pledged to do it, and I'm going to do it. This is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing here. I'm thinking to myself, you're insane, you're an idiot. But at the same time that I'm thinking that was a moment that really made him a star. By then, backstage was packed because they know shit's going on. I stayed back where I was because I knew something else was going to happen. I knew. I guess at the end of the day, I'm glad that they went back up because it created another moment. It added to the storyline because sometimes you can storyline yourself right to the hospital. The next spot in the storyline pitched by Mick Foley was far less concerning, at least at first. We had already agreed on the one choke slam, which we thought would cause the match to gradually give way. And the big visual was going to be Undertaker, like stuffing me down. But that did not happen. And now, Houston, we got a problem. I thought that the destruction of the Foley body was well in hand. And that's enough. It was a completely different situation than when he got thrown off the top. You just know, I'm screaming at the TV set. I am cursing. I was like trying to get the company on the phone. And I couldn't get through to anybody. How do you tell your children, oh, daddy's acting? Laying there lifeless, motionless. This was not expected at all. I thought that was the end of him when he hit that solid mat. That ring is a concrete. The mat doesn't do it justice. It's more like hitting the cement. As he's falling, that metal-heavy, solid folding chair came right behind him. You could see when he lands that chair. Boom, there's a chair on his face. Boom. He could have very easily died. My mom thought he was dead also. I was shocked. I was screaming. I was furious. Because I thought he betrayed me by not telling me the truth that there was another spot. There we go. Choke slam. Oh, that was the first time in his career that he'd been legitimately knocked out cold. We all flooded the cage. Dr. Francois, Terry Funk, the guys that went out, they were thinking this might be the end. He was really not responsive at that point. I turn around and look at the Undertaker, and I say, okay, that's enough, because I saw his eyes not answering. Man, he landed in such a funky way. I didn't know that he was going to get up. I was legit scared for what the results were going to be. The Undertaker, he looked at Terry and said, see if he's alive. Terry reports back, he's still breathing. There were so many times when I'd seen stars, but I'd never been out for more than a couple seconds. And this time there's 42 seconds that I don't recall. Terry Funk took it into his own hands and walked up to Undertaker and said, hit me, so he could take the focus away from Mick a little bit, so everybody could tend to him. It's all ad-lib. It's all at the moment. If I'd ever seen a match that should have been stopped, that was probably the one. But he just didn't do it back then. We didn't stop matches. We bought time. And I needed every second that I could get. When I came to what I immediately saw, Terry Funk's shoes, I then realized I'm in this match, and that's where I try to stand. How is he still standing up? I don't have a damn clue. Oh my God, he is a freaking mess. It's really crazy to think that they would allow this to happen. Just like someone go unconscious and then continue to match. As the clouds began to clear, I was all about trying to create an image for TV. I've got a massive wound underneath my lip. And if I can find a way to take my tongue, stick it through that massive wound, it's going to make for a great TV moment. And he's smiling. There's the tooth. How do you get hit in the face with a chair, and it knocks your tooth out, and it ends up in your nostril? One of the doctors said that it went into his throat, but because he was breathing so heavily that he had sucked it up the other way and came down through his nasal passage. Maybe a tooth? This match was real. The pain was real. The drama was real. The expressions on everybody's face were real. Real concern. You could look in his eyes and tell you there was nobody home. And I'm trying to talk to him. All he wanted to do is, we got to get you a tax. What is that? A car tax? This was their first appearance in WWE. I felt like I should be the guy to bring him over. He's purposely rolling around to make sure he gets all the thumbtacks on him as much as possible. When the adrenaline is taking over, you don't realize the pain anymore. You're part of the pain. You're pushing so far, you don't even know you're doing it. Mick is very big about come hell or high water, whatever it is, he will see it through. Finally, the 17-minute match comes to an end with The Undertaker defeating Mankind. What a spectacle it was. In that Pittsburgh Civic Arena, 16,000 people. We've never seen anything like this before. They brought the stretcher out because we thought it was needed for sure. But he waved it off and that crowd went absolutely insane. This was real as a heart attack. And the people could tell that puts the fans in the corner of this guy who just cannot be stopped. And that's the kind of shit that gets over. An audience has invested their time, their money, and their effort in one single thing. And that is the belief in you. He knew and understood that risking his well-being allows them to more thoroughly believe in him and the experience. Thank God this is over. We kept taking these chances, and another chance, and another chance. And for why? As long as I live, I will never forget what we just witnessed right there. He would always call and check in with me, let me know that he's okay. And now here comes a one pay-per-view where she really needs to know, and there's no phone call. I had to wait and wait and wait. It made me worry, and that anger came back. And a few hours later, Mick calls me. She was screaming at me, "Your children thought you were dead." I think prior to the cell, she prepared by trusting that I wasn't going to do anything to jeopardize the family. After that, it became a big concern. Mick came back through the curtain. I mean, everybody rushed up and wanted to check on him and make sure he was as okay as he could possibly be. One of the first people to greet Mick at the curtain was Vince McMahon. He said, "Mick, I want to thank you for what you've done for my company. And I want you to promise me that you will never do anything like it again and pull those thumbtacks out of him." I'm going backstage, and I overheard Mick say to Taker, "Did we do the thumbtack spot?" He doesn't realize that the doctor is just plucking them out of him right now. When you love somebody and you respect them as much as I did Mick, my first thought was, are you okay? Are you really okay? I don't think he truly anticipated how severe that was going to be. Like that night, I had to help him get undressed and into bed. You know, he was messed up on that one. I think it was 15 stitches underneath the lip, lost these 2 teeth. I don't even know if I was treated for a concussion. I had a bruised kidney for about 6 weeks. My jaw was dislocated. I can't remember which shoulder was dislocated, but you know what? That match changed the way people felt about me, and that's what really sparked the career. Renaissance. With what you did at Hell in a Cell, I want to publicly thank you. Going from Vince not wanting to see him in a WWF ring to 6 months after that match, he was world champion. The reaction, the pop, the adrenaline, the rush, the more he did, the more risks he took, it made me worry. The bar kept just going up because it was never good enough. I think he felt like he had to live up to being the hardcore legend, continuing things that he probably shouldn't have. Mick, at that point, was about what are the limits of physical human endurance? He felt like he owed it to the guy he was working with. He owed it to the people to do something that they hadn't seen before. I remember not a scolding, but a warning. If you continue to try to do these type things, it's going to catch up with you. He understood, but he didn't agree with me. Just 7 months later, Mick Foley again pushes his limits. This time in a brutal showdown with The Rock in the infamous I Quit match. No stopping the match for excessive blood loss. I told Mick that's a horrible idea, but he was going to do what he needed to do and what he wanted to do. He's riding the big tidal waves. I also think it had something to do with my way of making it seem like everything was going to be all right. It was one of the worst days of my life. The I Quit match is underway. I had both children with me. It was super brutal from the beginning. I got carried away with The Rock. I had told him, laid in, Mick Foley is barely moving, and now The Rock has handcuffs. What the hell is he going to do now? He did. But instead of taking 5 shots, I took 11 shots. No, what the hell is Mick Foley doing? His kids were not old enough at that point to really ascertain what was fact and what was fiction. But also in the middle of this fiction, it was a fact. He got brain damage for a wrestling angle on television. Where does it end? What does it take now to put you down? Please, Mick, say I quit. So this sounds pretty bizarre, but I don't have one singular memory of my dad ever wrestling. Part of me thinks it's because it was very traumatic to me. Like, how could these 11 shots change my dad's health? Like, if you were to get 11 headshots, a normal person probably could have died. It's sickening, honestly. I really, really hate the I Quit match. Mick always wanted to over-deliver. And somewhere down the road, all of us need to ask ourselves the question, was it worth it? No. I understood that the style I chose was going to result in great discomfort. There were so many times where I could have made a move less painful, but I chose not to because I thought it would look better. No, there were a handful of doctors saying that you need to stop now. If you continue wrestling, you'll wind up crippled. Do you think that stopped him? I still thought I had one good match left in me, and so I set about trying to delay the inevitable. There were times when he should not have been wrestling. He shouldn't have been cleared. He'd drive around and not remember where he lived. Concussion on top of concussion on top of concussion. My appointment with the WWE neurologist had not gone particularly well, so I booked an appointment independent of WWE. I'll never forget what he told me. He said, Mr. Foley, if you want to try to find another neurologist to clear you, that's up to you. But I'm telling you, you should never wrestle again. If you push those physical limits like Mick has, you're definitely going to pay a price. Sadly, Mick is paying that price right now. Back then, we didn't know the long-term effects of concussions. When guys take a bump, they have an impact in the ring, similar to experiencing a 25-mile-per-hour car accident. I can only imagine the type of pain that Mick has to live with. He's paid the price for all this fame. Mick is very special, and he's lucky he's still with us. CTE is a very scary disease. That is a long-term effect of repetitive concussions and brain trauma. We don't really know how my dad will be doing in 10, 20 years or so. If you're wondering if I'm worried about that, yeah, really worried. Every day, I worry about that. The fallout from what I'd done, I don't see a way out of it. That's one of the most respected and beloved men to ever compete in our business. But I'm going to fight it. I'm going to try to be someone who continues to get sharper as they get older. And so I have these spoken word shows. It's like mental gymnastics for my mind. And I hear the crowd chanting Undertaker. Putting on a show, having that stimulation from people, that keeps him going. I could either appreciate what I have, or I could live in complete fear about the unknown. So I'm going to continue to enjoy myself. He lived his dream. He made his dream. He needs to feel accepted, especially around his legacy. I tell him, go, do the things you like to do, but don't push your luck. Colette knew that I was kind of my own worst enemy when I was in the ring. We dress up in wild costumes and engage in a fantasy form of combat that leaves a lot of us in worse condition than we arrived at. And we do it to earn the acceptance of total strangers. For me, it was all about the reactions, the eyes lighting up, my desire to be authentic. I definitely wanted to be loved. All the sacrifices you put your physique through just for the roar of them. I like that roar. You can't say it at the fault without also admitting that it's responsible for my success. Mick Foley is known for many things. He's a multiple-time champion. He's donated time and energy to charities. But what he's known for is Hell in a Cell. For years, I really harbored some resentment for that match, because it was the only thing that I was known for. I was in a dark place for a while. On one hand, I knew I'd done a lot in wrestling. On the other hand, I felt like I'd accomplished nothing at all. The Undertaker and I, we were reminiscing, and he says, "You know, Jack, what we did that night will outlive us both." That was a major step in embracing that moment. That's what I got out of wrestling for, to try to create moments like that. I think fans are going to remember him as a guy who gave his heart and soul to this business and appreciate him immensely for it. The audience is coming to be in awe because few people in the world can put you in awe, and those people do. This is the beauty of it. Me and my dad, we were at the WWE warehouse, and we came across the cell. My dad certainly wasn't expecting to see it. He touched it, and he just started tearing up and started crying. I've never seen my dad cry. For something to make him cry must have been really important and life-changing and also probably pretty scary. Like, this would have been it. I'm lucky I'm here after that. There's no reward big enough to cover that risk. We did not know nearly as much about head injuries as we do now, but I can't tell you with certainty that I would have done things different if I had known that. I felt like the world had offered me this canvas to create surreal, sublime performance art. There were some bumps in the road, but it was a pretty magical way to make a living. On certain nights when things were really good, it was one of the most powerful feelings in the world. On June 28, 1998, at the World Wrestling Federation King of the Ring pay-per-view event, one match etched its name into the bedrock of sports entertainment history as arguably the most shocking encounter ever witnessed. The Undertaker collided with Mankind inside the demonic structure known as Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell hits you like a mallet straight to the consciousness. Industry insiders knew it was going to be intense, but nobody could predict that level of sheer, unadulterated madness. We had two exceptional talents out there who loved to push the envelope right until it tipped, entirely over the edge. Pro wrestling is scripted, but you simply cannot script gravity. Veterans and executives alike have witnessed plenty of terrifying moments in this industry, but nothing paralyzed observers with fear quite like that opening ascent. And that was before the match truly escalated into the realm of the unbelievable. What left millions of fans around the globe completely stunned was the unrelenting punishment Mick Foley endured until you laid eyes on it. The human mind simply refused to believe that a person could physically subject themselves to such devastation and walk away breathing. This match was real. The pain was real. The high-stakes drama was real. Behind the scenes, veteran producers were cursing, screaming, and openly calling him out of his mind. Why push things to that extreme? The legacy of Hell in a Cell persists today as both a monumental triumph of storytelling and a harrowing cautionaritate. Those closest to production admit they dodged bullets that day, not just one, but several potential tragedies. It feels surreal to reflect on an era where an athlete could be rendered unconscious and simply allowed to stagger back up to continue the battle. The collateral damage that followed is an entirely different chapter of the story. When does the madness stop? When is enough truly enough? You pay the price, day in and day out, for the choices you make during your 15 minutes in the spotlight. It was a dangerously unhinged masterpiece. Yet every single person involved is forced to confront the ultimate question: was it worth it? To understand Mick Foley, you have to understand the void he was trying to fill. Everyone who enters a squared circle is usually searching for something missing in their personal lives. For Foley, Relentless teasing during his youth created an overwhelming psychological need to be liked and an intense ambition to capture the World Wrestling Federation Championship belt. During his sophomore year in college, he famously filled his mouth with red food coloring, executed a high-risk leap from a dormitory bed onto a stuffed animal resting on a concrete floor, and spat out the crimson mixture upon impact. As the crowd of peers reacted with a mix of shock and disgust, a young Foley felt a potent surge of power. He realized that if he could not always make people love him, perhaps he could shock and disgust them into paying attention. He needed reactions above all else. His name is Mick Foley, recognized worldwide as a hardcore legend, and he survived Hell in a Cell. Yet, veterans often warn that Hell in a Cell serves as a dangerous gateway. Countless fans point to that specific bout as their introduction to professional wrestling. When asked if they expected every match to be built on that level of carnage, the reality quickly sets in: they are not. A standard Mick Foley match was already notoriously brutal, featuring bloodshed, thumbtacks, and fiery spectacles. From wrestling in Japan amidst exploding barbed wire and C4 charges, to taking unprotected impacts directly onto unyielding concrete floors, Foley consistently put his body through unimaginable torment. His family watched the toll firsthand. His children grew up seeing their father chase those visceral audience reactions, eliciting gasps of horror and disbelief. His wife, Colette Foley, who met Mick over 35 years prior, recognized a gentle, kind-hearted soul beneath the eccentric exterior, complete with corny jokes and self-deprecating humor. Their wedding song was Beauty and the Beast because they understood each other deeply. She understood his unwavering commitment. When the adrenaline surged, Foley wanted audiences talking about nothing else, regardless of the personal risk. That internal drive pushed him further and further into dangerous territory. Before Mankind, there was Cactus Jack, a wild, unpredictable persona that fans simply could not ignore. Jim Cornette, working at the time as a producer and agent for the World Wrestling Federation, noted that Foley possessed an elite understanding of match psychology. He knew modern audiences gravitated toward chaos, toward performers who shattered the script and took fans on an unpredictable psychological ride. Foley's education in violence came largely from studying Japanese wrestling tapes for 12 hours a day in cramped apartments. He admired the realism and the concept of man versus his environment. Japan became his proving ground, where he crossed paths with Terry Funk, a legendary mentor renowned for his unmatched ability to make audiences suspend disbelief instantly. Together, Funk and Foley pioneered bloody, explosive death matches that set a new benchmark for extremity. Back in the United States, the World Wrestling Federation was operating during a very conservative, G-rated era. Vince McMahon initially did not want Mick Foley on the roster. McMahon did not find him marketable, traditional, or conventionally attractive. It took persistent lobbying from travel partner and close friend Al Snow, alongside talent relations Vice President Jim Ross, to convince McMahon to give the unorthodox performer a chance. Ross needed reliable opponents to challenge top-tier stars like The Undertaker, whose dominance was frequently paired with traditional giants in matchups that creative teams often found monotonous. What the division truly needed was a dynamic catalyst, a brilliant mind wrapped in a lunatic exterior. Reluctantly, Vince McMahon agreed to bring Foley in under a mask, famously declaring that they would cover his face because nobody knew who he was or cared about his background. WWE Hall of Famer Gerald Briscoe recalled the initial creative challenge handed to the backstage producers: build a compelling character out of a blank slate. Thus, Mankind was born. The bizarre, hair-pulling, self-mutilating character had no business succeeding with anyone other than Mick Foley. Without a profound, visceral connection to the audience, character work remains meaningless. But fans immediately sense Foley's absolute commitment. As an opponent for The Undertaker, Mankind proved to be a revelation. The two veterans had already built a formidable foundation across multiple television bouts and pay-per-view clashes, but their shared narrative had temporarily plateaued. Heading into the 1998 King of the Ring event, creative producers looked to capitalize on a revolutionary concept introduced months prior: Hell in a Cell. Originally designed by Vince McMahon and first contested between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, a bout widely regarded as a technical masterpiece, the enclosed steel structure was meant to keep competitors contained. During a casual backstage conversation, Terry Funk jokingly suggested starting a match on top of the cage and getting thrown off. When Funk laughed it off, Foley looked him dead in the eye and realized he was entirely serious about executing the idea. Foley pitched the concept to both The Undertaker and Vince McMahon. While initial reservations existed, Foley's unwavering determination won them over. He was not viewing the match as a glamorous second act. He was fighting to keep his career afloat, believing his current run would likely be his last. On June 28, 1998, at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, tension filled the arena. Referee Jimmy Corderas and producer Gerald Briscoe monitored the monitors backstage, acting as captains of ship heading directly into uncharted waters. Breaking all protocol, Mankind made the unprecedented decision to bypass the interior entirely, climbing directly onto the roof of the 15-foot steel structure before the opening bell even rang. Foley later confessed that despite assuring management he was comfortable, he suffered from a severe fear of heights and was terrified the moment he reached the summit. As The Undertaker's music echoed through the arena, both heavyweights stood atop the mesh roof. Due to the weight of nearly 600 pounds of combined human muscle, the steel mesh immediately gave way by roughly a foot as the zip ties securing the panels snapped under the pressure. The psychological tension reached a fever pitch. Moments later, near the edge of the cage above the Spanish announce tables, the unthinkable happened. The Undertaker hoisted Foley and hurled him downward from nearly 20 feet in the air. As captured brilliantly by commentators Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, a 300-pound human being plummeted through the air in what felt like slow motion, yet registered in the blink of an eye. The deafening crash as Foley smashed through the wooden announce table left the backstage area in stunned silence. Colleagues watched in absolute horror, genuinely fearing they had just witnessed a fatality. Miraculously, Foley's spatial awareness allowed him to twist slightly mid-air, landing flat to cushion the devastating impact, though the physical toll was immediate and severe. Medical personnel, including Dr. Francois Petit, a martial arts black belt and former road physician for the promotion, rushed to the scene alongside Terry Funk and referees. Placed onto a stretcher because the medical gurney could not navigate the arena floor easily, Foley was prepared for immediate hospital transport. The match appeared to be over. Instead, driven by an unyielding desire to maximize audience engagement and complete the story, Foley defied medical logic. He climbed off the stretcher, brushed aside panic warnings from officials and colleagues, and staggered back up the steel cage to resume the war. What followed compounded the danger. During a planned sequence meant to culminate in a choke slam through the roof mesh, the structure suddenly gave way prematurely. Unlike the controlled descent through the table, this mishap sent Foley crashing straight down into the ring canvas below, with a heavy steel folding chair plummeting right behind him and striking him directly in the face. The impact rendered Foley legitimately unconscious for the first time in his professional career. 42 seconds of complete blackness. Backstage monitors captured the terrifying stillness of his body. Concerned for his safety, Terry Funk courageously stepped into the line of fire, confronting The Undertaker to redirect attention away from an unresponsive Foley while medical staff flooded the ring. As consciousness slowly returned, Foley famously discovered that a heavy impact had dislodged a tooth from his jaw, forcing it up through his nasal passage and out beneath his lip. Remarkably, despite severe trauma, including a dislocated jaw, separated shoulder, deep lacerations, and a badly bruised kidney, Foley insisted on finishing the match. In a final, gruesome display of theatrical resilience, He rolled intentionally into a bed of steel thumbtacks scattered across the canvas, embracing the pain to cement the climax of the bout. 17 minutes after it began, the match concluded with The Undertaker standing victorious. As the medical stretcher was brought out, Foley waved it away, rising to his feet to a thunderous ovation from 16,000 fans inside the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. The crowd recognized a genuine sacrifice, elevating Mankind into an entirely new stratosphere of stardom. Yet, the victory carried a heavy personal cost. Backstage, Vince McMahon expressed gratitude while sternly demanding that Foley never attempt such a stunt again. Colette Foley, watching the horror unfold from home alongside their young children, experienced intense fear and lingering anger. The physical fallout required weeks of recovery and served as an alarming preview of the long-term consequences of repetitive head trauma. Just 7 months later, Foley pushed his physical limits even further in a brutal I Quit match against The Rock, enduring 11 unprotected steel chair shots to the head in front of his family, a sequence that horrified viewers and accelerated discussions regarding chronic traumatic encephalopathy and the severe long-term risks of concussions. Independent neurologists eventually warned Foley that continuing his career could result in permanent paralysis or cognitive decline, leading to his eventual retirement from full-time competition. Despite the physical wreckage and the heavy toll concussions, Foley found peace later in life through spoken word tours, writing, and deep reflection on his legacy. While he initially harbored resentment that a single match overshadowed a storied career, conversations with peers like The Undertaker helped him embrace the magnitude of what they created. Standing years later inside a WWE warehouse alongside his daughter Noelle and touching the original steel structure, Foley was moved to tears, reminded of the thin line between triumph and tragedy. Ultimately, professional wrestling offered Foley a massive canvas to perform surreal, sublime performance art. Though the road was paved with scars and physical sacrifice, it remains a powerful testament to a performer who gave his heart, soul, and body to an industry in pursuit of the ultimate connection with the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome inside the darkest, most compelling corners of sports entertainment history. I am your guide through the shadows, standing at the crossroads where the bright lights of the squared circle cast the longest, most haunting shadows. Tonight, we pull back the heavy curtain on a world built on blood, sweat, adrenaline, and an insatiable hunger for the ultimate reaction. We are examining a defining chapter of professional wrestling history, a narrative captured through the lens of archival confessionals, veteran testimony, and the unyielding testimony of time itself. This is a story of human endurance pushed past the breaking point, a cautionary tale of man who traded his physical well-being for the roar of the crowd, and a legacy that continues to define an entire industry, the anatomy of a masterpiece and a cautionary tale. On the 28th day of June, in the year 1998, at the World Wrestling Federation King of the Ring pay-per-view event inside the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, two warriors stepped into a structure that would forever change the landscape of the sport. The match was between The Undertaker and Mankind, battling inside a demonic steel cage known as Hell in a Cell. Observers note that the structure hit the consciousness like a heavy mallet. Industry veterans knew things were going to be intense, but nobody anticipated the sheer magnitude of the madness that unfolded when two extraordinary talents pushed the envelope until it fell entirely over the edge. As the old saying goes, professional wrestling may be scripted, but gravity is entirely real. Longtime analysts and participants have confessed to being frightened by many things throughout their careers in professional wrestling. Yet nothing struck absolute terror into their hearts quite like what transpired that night. What left fans worldwide utterly stunned was the unrelenting, brutal punishment that McFoley endured until witnesses saw it with their own eyes. Human logic dictated that a person could not physically subject themselves to such trauma and survive. The pain was not an illusion. The drama was raw, visceral, and terrifying. Behind the scenes, producers and executives watched in horror, openly shouting curses. labeling the unfolding spectacle as sheer madness and asking the fundamental question, why would anyone do this? Hell in a Cell's legacy persists to this day as both an epic, era-defining success and a profound cautionary tale. Industry insiders have remarked that the business dodged multiple catastrophic bullets that single day, not just one, but several. Looking back, commentators and loved ones find it genuinely staggering that officials allowed a competitor to go unconscious and then simply continue the match. The collateral damage that ensued from those decisions is an entirely separate story. When does the violence stop? When is enough truly enough? Every performer eventually pays the price for the decisions they make during their brief 15 minutes in the spotlight. It was a dangerously brilliant masterpiece, yet it forces everyone associated with the industry to ask a sobering question. Was it truly worth the cost? The psychology of the hardcore legend. To understand why a human being would voluntarily leap from 20 feet in the air onto solid steel and wooden tables, one must examine the psychological foundation of the man behind the mask. Everyone who enters the grueling world of professional wrestling is typically searching for something they feel is missing in their own everyday lives. For Mick Foley, the driving force stemmed from childhood teasing, which evolved into an overwhelming, desperate need to be liked by strangers and to capture the ultimate World Wrestling Federation Championship belt. In interviews recalling his college years as a sophomore, Foley recounted taking a gulp of red food coloring and performing a daring leap from a bed onto a stuffed object on a concrete floor. Upon impact, he spat out the artificial blood concoction while dorm mates watched in shock. Hearing a peer shout that it was the most disgusting thing she had ever witnessed, Foley felt a sudden, intoxicating rush of power. That singular moment planted a psychological seed. If he could not consistently make people love him, perhaps he could shock and disgust them to secure a reaction. He simply needed a response from the audience to feel validated. Known to the world as a hardcore legend, Mick Foley survived Hell in a Cell, but his entire career was built on that foundational desire for a pop from the masses. Observers note that Hell in a Cell serves as a perfect gateway for modern fans. Many enthusiasts claim it was the very first match they ever witnessed, which sparked their lifelong devotion to the sport. However, veteran observers immediately offer a crucial follow-up question. Did those new fans honestly expect every single match to follow that blueprint? Because they certainly do not. A standard, typical match for Mick Foley was already quite brutal, featuring heavy doses of blood, thumbtacks, fire, and barbed wire throughout his global travels, including death matches in Japan involving high explosives and brutal impacts on bare concrete. He continuously put his physical vessel through unimaginable punishment. His family, including his wife Colette and his children Noel and Dewey, watched in a state of perpetual anxiety. Colette noted that realism was a massive tool for Foley. He famously remarked that he did not feel he was having a successful match unless he had trouble physically walking back to his hotel room afterward. He did not necessarily enjoy the agonizing pain itself, but rather relished the fact that he could absorb it, endure it, and sell it in a way that entertained the masses. Building the persona and finding the path, Colette Foley, who shared over 35 years of history with Mick, recalled that when they first met, she noticed his gentle, kind eyes. Beneath the corn-fed jokes and terrible humor lay a genuinely warm human being, leading to a wedding song selection fittingly drawn from Beauty and the Beast. They operated as a cohesive team, with Colette understanding his profound commitment to his craft. When the competitive adrenaline surged through his veins, Foley wanted nothing more than to leave fans talking about the greatness of the show, regardless of the personal risk involved. That relentless drive pushed him further into increasingly dangerous territory. Along the way, he developed alternative personas, most notably Cactus Jack. Industry veterans like Jim Cornette, who worked as an agent and producer for the World Wrestling Federation at the time, analyzed Foley's remarkable in-ring psychology. Cornette noted that Foley innately understood that fans gravitated toward performers who appeared completely out of control. individuals who aggressively defied the standard script. Foley possessed a unique charisma that commanded attention, making it impossible for audiences to take their eyes off him. Before reaching the pinnacle of sports entertainment in North America, Foley spent countless hours studying Japanese wrestling tapes, sometimes watching 12 hours a day on a barely functioning VCR. He admired the realism, the deep storytelling, and the concept of man fighting not just an opponent, but overcoming dangerous surroundings. Seeking a place where his unique style could stand out, he traveled to Japan, where he crossed paths with Terry Funk. According to historical accounts, Terry Funk was widely regarded as the greatest of all time regarding his uncanny ability to make audiences suspend their disbelief within seconds. Funk became a mentor to Foley, paving the way for violent, bloody encounters that solidified Foley's reputation for prioritizing the wild, uninhibited style of combat over traditional wrestling mat mechanics. The road to the World Wrestling Federation. At the time, the World Wrestling Federation was operating firmly within a clean, G-rated era rather than the edgier attitude era that would later define the company. The product was widely perceived as bland, and a performer like Mick Foley did not naturally gel with the corporate image the company was trying to sell. Vince McMahon reportedly did not want Mick Foley on the roster, believing he was neither marketable nor visually attractive. Al Snow, a former superstar who served as Foley's travel partner and close confidant, played a pivotal role behind the scenes. Alongside Jim Ross, who served as the vice president of talent relations, efforts were made to secure valuable talent that could serve as viable opponents for the top stars of the organization. Jim Ross noted that the company desperately needed fresh dance partners for The Undertaker, who stood as one of the most prominent and dominant figures in the history of the industry. Management had repeatedly attempted to pit traditional giants against The Undertaker, a creative direction that many felt had grown tedious and dull. What the storyline truly required was an unpredictable wild card. Reports indicate that after considerable persuasion, Vince McMahon slammed his hand on a table and reluctantly agreed to bring Foley in, albeit with a major caveat: they would obscure his face behind a mask, ensuring nobody knew who he was or anything about his background. Gerald Briscoe, a WWE Hall of Famer, recalled that management essentially handed the production team a blank slate, challenging them to build a compelling character around seemingly nothing. Thus, Mankind was born. Despite initial skepticism, this bizarre, hair-pulling, self-mutilating persona resonated because of Foley's fierce commitment to the craft. Jim Ross observed that without a genuine connection to the audience and a defined character, everything else in the business is meaningless, and fans can instantly sense true commitment. The primary goal established by management was to position Mankind as a formidable, enduring opponent for The Undertaker, setting the stage for a legendary rivalry that spanned numerous pay-per-view events and television broadcasts across the globe. The genesis of Hell in a Cell. As their historic rivalry plateaued, both competitors recognized the need to elevate their legacy. For the upcoming 1998 King of the Ring pay-per-view, creative producers planned to reignite the feud using a newly conceived match structure. Hell in a Cell. Traditionally, steel cage matches in the promotion required a competitor to escape by climbing over the top or walking out through the door. Foley approached Vince McMahon with a revolutionary proposal. What if the cage featured a fully enclosed roof, ensuring both men entered, but only one walked out under their own power? While the very first Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had already established a high benchmark, Foley and his mentors began plotting something even more unthinkable. In a casual conversation with Terry Funk, the veteran jokingly suggested that it would be humorous if Foley actually started the match on top of the structure and got thrown off. Though initially spoken as a joke, Foley looked at Funk and calmly stated that he believed he could actually execute the stunt. The idea quickly transitioned from a casual pitch to a firm reality. While management and opponents had reservations about the sheer peril involved, Foley remained dead set on executing the vision. He viewed the match not as a glorious second act in his career, but rather as a desperate attempt to keep his head above water, believing that when his current wrestling run concluded, his career would likely be over as well. The Pittsburgh Civic Arena, June 28, 1998. On the evening of June 28, 1998, a packed house inside the Pittsburgh Civic Arena eagerly awaited the showdown. Jimmy Corderas, serving as a member of the ring crew and a referee, watched the monitors backstage alongside Gerald Briscoe, feeling as though they occupied the captain's seat of an aircraft with no autopilot. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler welcomed millions of viewers at home, remaining largely in the dark regarding the absolute devastation about to unfold, breaking all established conventions. Mick Foley shocked the audience by walking out and immediately scaling the exterior of the towering steel cage before the opening bell even rang, admitting later that he harbored a severe fear of heights and had never actually climbed to the top of the cell prior to that night. Foley fought a wave of internal terror while attempting to figure out how to navigate the structure without compromising his career. The match officially commenced, creating an immediate psychological fear that electrified the arena. The top section of the cage had been secured using simple zip ties. However, with over 600 pounds of combined human weight moving atop the mesh, the structure immediately gave way by roughly a foot, causing the zip ties to snap audibly. Realizing the immense danger of a premature collapse, the competitors moved toward the edge of the cage near the commentary tables. The fall through the Spanish announce table, standing near the precipice, looking down at the tiny commentary table that resembled a child's dollhouse. The margin for error was virtually non-existent. Commentators and backstage personnel watched with growing dread as the two heavy athletes approached the edge. Then, in an instant that seemed to unfold in both slow motion and the blink of an eye, a 300-pound human being was hurled from a height of nearly 20 feet above the floor. The resulting crash into the Spanish announce table sent a shockwave through the entire arena. Backstage personnel exploded with immediate concern, comparing the horrifying visual to a severe vehicular accident. Viewers at home gasped in absolute horror, with many children and family members watching in sheer disbelief. Colette Foley desperately tried to soothe her young children by claiming the action was purely scripted, while internally panicking over the reality of the situation. Miraculously, through precise spatial awareness and mid-air rotation, Foley managed to land in a manner that absorbed the impact across the desk rather than hitting the bare concrete directly, though the physical toll was immense. Commentator Hugo Savanovic narrowly avoided being crushed by bailing out his chair just in time. Medical personnel, led by Dr. Francois Petit, a versatile physician and martial artist known affectionately among talent as a bone cracker, rushed to the scene alongside Terry Funk to evaluate the fallen competitor, the return to the apex, despite suffering a dislocated shoulder and severe trauma, and despite medical staff attempting to secure him to a gurney for immediate hospital transport. Foley made a decision that baffled everyone in attendance. Recognizing that the audience was fully invested and realizing he had the physical capacity to continue, he waved off the stretcher, pulled himself up, and began making his way back up the steel structure. Backstage observers and television viewers alike watched in absolute astonishment as the hardcore legend climbed back to the top of the cell. Many openly questioned his sanity, labeling the decision as the actions of the most reckless individual in the history of professional wrestling business. Yet, this exact moment cemented his status as an immortal star in the hearts of the fans. The choke slam and the second descent. What followed was a sequence that surpassed even the initial fall in terms of raw danger. The planned spot involved a standard choke slam that would cause the aging mesh roof to gradually give way, allowing Foley to fall safely inside the ring. However, reality intervened violently. The entire panel of the cage suddenly collapsed beneath Foley's weight. As he plummeted from the ceiling directly into the ring below, a heavy steel folding chair fell right behind him, striking him squarely in the face upon impact. This marked the first time in his professional career that he was legitimately knocked out cold. leaving him motionless and unresponsive for over 40 seconds. The ring mat, which performers often compare to hitting solid cement, offered no cushion against the dual impact of the steel structure and the heavy metal chair. Panic flooded the ring as Dr. Francois, Terry Funk, and The Undertaker rushed to check his vital signs. The Undertaker later admitted he was genuinely terrified of the outcome, noting that seeing Foley's unresponsive eyes was a chilling experience. Terry Funk bravely stepped up to draw the physical focus away from Foley, demanding that The Undertaker hit him to buy precious seconds for the medical team to administer aid. The aftermath and legacy. As consciousness slowly returned, Foley, displaying his uncanny knack for television showmanship, discovered a massive wound beneath his lip and pushed his tongue through it to create a striking visual for the cameras. Furthermore, a tooth had been dislodged by the chair strike, traveling up his nasal passage due to heavy breathing rather than down his throat. The match eventually concluded with The Undertaker securing the victory, but the final bell was merely the beginning of a long-term reckoning. Walking backstage, Foley was greeted by Vince McMahon, who expressed gratitude for his sacrifice while firmly demanding a promise that he would never attempt anything of that magnitude again. Medical staff immediately began plucking sharp thumbtacks out of his battered body as he asked if they had successfully completed the planned spots. The physical toll of the evening included 15 stitches beneath the lip, 2 lost teeth, a bruised kidney that lingered for 6 weeks, a dislocated jaw, and severe shoulder trauma. Yet, that single match fundamentally altered how the public perceived him, sparking a monumental career renaissance that culminated just months later when he captured the World Heavyweight Championship. The cost of immortality. Despite the professional success, the reckless pursuit of pushing physical limits continued, notably manifested in his brutal "I Quit" match against The Rock just 7 months later, which involved 11 unprotected chair shots to the head. Over time, the accumulated concussions, physical trauma, and repetitive impacts took a severe toll on Foley's neurological health. Independent medical evaluations delivered a sobering verdict. He should never step foot inside a wrestling ring again. Today, the long-term consequences of chronic traumatic encephalopathy and repetitive brain trauma remain a sobering reality for many veterans of that era. While Foley continues to connect with fans through spoken-word tours and live appearances, engaging in mental gymnastics to keep his mind sharp, his family watches with a mixture of enduring pride and persistent worry about the future. Reflecting on the journey, Mick Foley acknowledges both the profound triumphs and the heavy personal cost, though he initially harbored resentment that his entire career was overshadowed by a single 15-minute spectacle, a poignant moment inside the WWE warehouse alongside his daughter Noelle, where touching the preserved hell in a cell structure brought him to tears, helped him fully embrace his legacy. Ultimately, the sacrifices made in the squared circle created a series of immortal moments that outlived the performers themselves, leaving an indelible mark on the history of sports entertainment. On June 28, 1998, at the World Wrestling Federation's King of the Ring pay-per-view, one match would earn its place as one of the most shocking in wrestling history. The Undertaker versus Mankind inside Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell hits you like a mallet to the consciousness. I knew it was going to be crazy, but I did not know it was going to be that crazy. You had 2 talents out there that liked to really push that envelope until it fell over the edge. Wrestling may be scripted, but you cannot fake gravity. I have been frightened by a lot of things in professional wrestling. Nothing frightened me as much as that did, until later on in the match anyway. What left fans stunned was the unrelenting punishment Mick Foley endured. Until you saw it, you did not believe that a person could physically do this and live. This match was real. The pain was real. The drama was real. I was cursing and screaming and calling him an FING idiot. Why are you doing this? One of wrestling's most infamous matches. Hell in a Cell's legacy persists as both an epic success and a cautionary tale. According to those involved, we dodged bullets that day. Not just one, but several. It is really crazy to think that they would allow someone to go unconscious and then just continue. The match, the collateral damage that ensued is another story. When does it stop? When is it enough? You pay all day long for the decisions you make in your 15 minutes in the spotlight. It was a dangerously crazy masterpiece, but all of us need to ask ourselves the question, was it worth it? Everyone who gets into wrestling is looking for something that they find missing in their own lives. For me, I was teased a lot, so I had an overwhelming need to be liked and to take that World Wrestling Federation Championship belt. For example, I remember being in college as a sophomore. I took a swig of red food coloring, and I did a superfly leap off a bed onto a stuffed atom on a concrete floor. And when I hit the floor, I spit that blood concoction out. Everybody in the dorm was there watching. I heard one of the girls yell out, "That is the most disgusting thing I have ever seen." And I felt that power. So I thought, if I cannot make people love me, perhaps I can disgust them. I just needed to get reactions. My name is Mick Foley. I am known as a hardcore legend, and I survived Hell in a Cell. I think Hell in a Cell is a perfect gateway. So many people have said that is the first match I was shown, and now I am a huge fan. And my follow-up question is always like, did you expect all the matches to be like that? It is like, because they are not. A normal Mick Foley match is quite hardcore, brutal, probably blood, thumbtacks, fire. Oh my God, he is ready to take his bump. Bagwell, getting exploded by C4 explosives in Japan, getting speared through a table of fire, taking bumps on the concrete. Oh, God, right on the concrete. He just put his body through so much. I am Mickey Foley, and my dad is a hardcore legend, Mick Foley. I think he just really loves getting like in, oh my God, or gross, or nasty type of pop. Oh my God, I am Noelle Foley, and I am the daughter of Mick Foley. Realism was a big tool. I did not think I was having a good match unless I had trouble getting back to my hotel room. I did not enjoy the pain. I enjoyed the fact that I could take it and sell it in a way that was fun. Oh no. Oh my God. He has hung himself in the rope. I just had to really ask myself, do I want to get mixed up with this? I am Colette Foley, and I have known Mick Foley for over 35 years. When I met Mick, I noticed his eyes. I noticed that he was a gentle, nice person. But his corny jokes and terrible humor, that is what really made me fall in love with him. Our wedding song was actually Beauty and the Beast. We were a good team. She understood. She understood my commitment. Like, she really did. When that adrenaline was pumping, he just wanted people to leave talking about how great a show it was, at his own risk. And that was his drive to keep going and get more crazy along the way. He developed a personality called Cactus Jack. You could not stop Cactus Jack. He was a wild and crazy guy. You thought he might be insane. Are you kidding me? He had charisma. You could not take your eyes off this guy. He was different. He was unusual. I am Jim Cornette, and at the time of the Hell in a Cell match, I was working as an agent and a producer for the World Wrestling Federation. Mick was excellent with psychology in his matches. He knew that the fans liked people that were out of control. He is biting them. Someone who was going against the script. Cactus is going down. He could take those people on that ride with him and elicit the response that he wanted to get. This man is out of line for this. Then the attention would be on him, and his reputation would grow. Our bedroom furniture consisted of a mattress on the floor with a black and white television, with a VCR that barely worked, and in that VCR was Japanese wrestling tapes. I would sometimes watch 12 hours of Japanese wrestling a day. I like the realism, the storytelling. It is not just man versus man. You have to defeat the surroundings, you know? I thought Japan was likely to be where I made my living. They were looking for a foreigner who could feud with Terry Funk. Terry Funk was the greatest of all time for his ability to make people suspend disbelief in A. Second, Terry Funk became somewhat of a mentor to Mick, and they started working together in these explosive, bloody, violent, fiery death matches in Japan. I was always drawn to the wild stuff, so I would literally be on my hands and knees. And I thought that was proof that I had done something special. This is a place I can make myself stand out. So I never saw myself being a World Wrestling Entertainment guy. In the World Wrestling Federation at the time, it was not a PG era. It was a G-rated era. Very bland. And for someone like Mick, his style did not really gel with what the World Wrestling Federation was selling. My name is Al Snow. I am a former World Wrestling Entertainment superstar. I was Mick Foley's travel partner. And, dare I say, probably his best friend. Probably his only friend. I am just kidding. Vince McMahon did not want Mick Foley. Did not think that he was marketable. Did not think he was attractive. How I convinced McMahon to hire Mick was to give me a chance on my observations of talent. Because I see something in this guy. I am Jim Ross. And at the time of the Hell in a Cell, I was Vice President of Talent Relations. I needed to make sure that we had dancing partners for the top guys. The Undertaker was one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling. Long live The Undertaker. Vince kept trying to go with giants to face The Undertaker, which was boring and dull. Big right hand. What you needed was a lunatic. I had heard a story about Vince slamming his hand down on a table and saying, "All right, I will bring him in, but I am covering up his face. We do not know who he is. We do not know nothing about him. Well, he is nobody. He is nothing." That is Vince's perception of Mick Foley. Hey everybody, I am Gerald Briscoe, better known as Jerry Briscoe, World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Famer and Chickasaw Nation Hall of Famer. Vince was like, man, it was like, okay, now you guys go build a character around nothing. So we come down to Mankind. What the hell is Mankind? Here it comes, Mankind. This bogus bullshit would not have worked with anybody but Mick Foley. He is pulling his own hair out, without a connection to the audience, without character. Everything else is meaningless. I think fans can sense the commitment. My goal for Mick was that he was going to be a great opponent for The Undertaker. He was willing to try anything. My granny would say, he did not turn nothing down but the covers. So now I have got this big challenge to not let him kill himself. The Undertaker and I were laying quite a foundation. 7 pay-per-view matches, 10 television matches. We have been around the globe together. But my character had kind of plateaued. I knew I had to do something. Something that would add to instead of detract from our legacy. For 1998's King of the Ring pay-per-view, World Wrestling Federation producers planned to reignite the Mankind-Undertaker feud with a recently developed concept. Hell in a Cell. The way that they did cage matches in the World Wrestling Federation was you had to either get out by either climbing over cage or leaving through the door. I asked Vince McMahon, I said, what about if this cage match is different? What about if we put a roof on the cage? Both go in, only one is coming out. And that is where we came up with Hell in a Cell. The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels had the first Hell in a Cell, and it was a mile marker. Well, the Michaels-Undertaker match, technically, to me, it is still the best one. I just looked at this match open-jawed. I literally cannot do any of the things that these guys are doing. Some 9 months later, they are going to do it again, this time The Undertaker and Mankind. And then I asked Terry Funk, what are we going to do? And he started laughing. He went,